Okay, let me ask you something. Have you ever walked out of a really important client meeting and just had that feeling that you left something on the table? Like there was this whole other level of influence, a deeper connection you just couldn't quite get to? Well, today we're going to look at a completely different playbook, one that finds its edge way outside the traditional business world. So let's just start with this. What if you could walk into any high-stakes meeting and read the room, like a behavioral profiler? I mean, not just listening to the words people are saying, but truly understanding their unspoken motives, their little hesitations, and then using that insight to build real trust from the get-go? And then, what if you could create an environment that feels so safe, so open, that your client just tells you what they actually need, not just what's written down in the request for proposal? Think about it like a skilled interrogator. It's not about pressure, right? It's about creating this atmosphere where the real, game-changing info just naturally comes out. And okay, here's the big one. What if you could take your sharp commercial brain and combine it with the, frankly, ridiculously effective negotiation skills of a hostage negotiator? I mean, come on, if those men and women can get what they need in a literal life-or-death situation, imagine what you could do in your next deal. This is the big idea we're digging into. Now look, getting to that level of mastery sounds amazing, but we all know it's not that easy. The truth is, for most of us, especially in those demanding professional services jobs, there are some really common roadblocks that all the traditional training in the world just doesn't seem to fix. So here's the real problem, right? Most of the professional development stuff we get is built on frameworks from like decades ago. It's all theory. It tells you what you should do, but the second you're under pressure, face to face with a client, it completely falls apart because it never taught you how to actually do it. And that gap between theory and what happens in the real world, it creates these 4 challenges that I'm pretty sure are going to sound familiar. First, you've got the struggle to find out what the client really wants deep down. Then, you've got to make sure you're maximizing the opportunity for your team, not just giving everything away. After that, you have to somehow explain your value in a way that cuts through all the noise from your competitors. And finally, the big one. You have to be assertive, stand your ground, without blowing up the whole relationship. Have you ever heard this? Oh, it's brutal. You spend weeks, maybe months, on a proposal, you give this killer pitch, and then you get this feedback. And you're just sitting there thinking, are you kidding me? If you had just told me that from the beginning, everything would have been different. But here's the question. Was it their fault for not saying it, or was it ours for not knowing how to uncover it? And that brings us right back to that last challenge, assertiveness. So often we end up taking ourselves hostage in a negotiation. We're so worried we're going to lose the deal or that we might upset the client that we just start caving. We compromise on price, we let the scope creep. It's an absolute killer for your credibility and for your bottom line. So, if the old way is broken, where do we look? Well, this is where it gets really, really cool. The answer isn't in another business book. The solution is to look completely outside the business world, at practitioners who perform at an unbelievable level in moments where the stakes couldn't be higher. And this brings us to what we call the elite practitioner mindset. It's a total shift in how you see things. You stop asking, what does the corporate playbook tell me to do? And you start asking a much, much more powerful question. What would a true elite, someone from a totally different world, do right here, right now? So, who are these new mentors? Well, they're people like hostage negotiators who have to build rapport under insane pressure. They're skilled interrogators who know how to create psychological safety to find the truth. They're neuroscientists who actually understand how the human brain makes decisions. These are the absolute masters of influence when everything is on the line. And just think about how powerful their methods are. A hostage negotiator, dealing with the most difficult client you could possibly imagine, has a 93% success rate of getting the hostage out alive. 93%. Now compare that to how often we feel like we have to give a discount just to close a simple business deal. It just shows you the massive potential that's waiting for us if we master these skills. And that potential for a real, tangible transformation, that's what we're going to talk about now. What does it actually look and feel like when you start to think and act like one of these elite practitioners? I mean, the change is pretty stark. You've got the old way over here, you're operating out of fear, you're compromising on price, you're giving away value just to get the deal signed, and then you have the elite approach over here. You're asserting your value with total confidence, you're protecting your scope and your margins, and you're actually building credibility through strength, not by just rolling over. And what you gain here is so much more than just a few new tricks. You start to develop this genuine composure, this real confidence under pressure. That, in turn, leads to elite-level communication skills. And with that, you can navigate tough negotiations and resolve conflicts like a pro. And you know what that all adds up to? It makes you the kind of leader that people actually want to follow. Okay, so you're probably thinking, this sounds great, but how do I actually do it? Well, the path to mastering this stuff isn't about spending years reading textbooks. It really comes down to a clear, actionable framework. Let's break down the 3 keys that really change the game. So there are really 3 things that make this work. First, all the hard research, decades of it, has already been done for you, distilled into a playbook that shortcuts the whole journey. Second, you train through doing, through rapid, practical application, not just sitting and listening to theories. And third, and this is the whole point, you practice these skills until they're not something you have to think about anymore. They become automatic, instinctive, just there for you in the moment you need them most. And that really brings us right back to the beginning. I want to leave you with that one simple question that started this whole thing. The next time you're prepping for a tough negotiation, or you're dealing with a difficult client, or you're about to walk into a high-stakes presentation, just pause for a second and ask yourself, what would the elite practitioner do?